Back. All right. Oh, we are live. Hey, 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 hey. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good smile from Janie. So, good morning, and welcome to Intercultural Spark, that show about the spark inside you that drives you to spark change in the world through mission driven businesses and life projects. I am your host, Deanna Schaas, and thank you, everyone who's joining live today. Please say hello so we know who's here, or feel free to ask questions in the comments. And if you're joining after the fact, we really appreciate you as well. So, I am excited to have my guests. I say that every week. I'm always excited. Why would I have guests that I wasn't excited about? Like, how can you be excited about my guests if I'm not excited about them, right? But today we have Joni Swedlund. So, Joni comes from a long line of unstoppable women. In fact, her grandma first learned how to ride a bike at 65, which is really cool, Joni. But she speaks Japanese. She was a partner. She became a partner at a time when there are not a lot of women partners at financial services companies. She worked with Deloitte Consulting, and then she opened the Inner Rock Group so that she could help other women and girls step into their leadership. So Janie, so funny. I've known Janie for like years. Did not know that Janie has raised sheep. She's been a mime. She's piloted a plane, raised two kids. Her husband says he counts as a third. And Jeff, if you're watching, that is so true. And she's done all the mom stuff, all while also working full time and just managing her independent life. So I'm delighted to welcome both Joni and Janie to Intercultural Spark. Hi, how are you? Oh, I always said I would put there. I go on the bottom, you guys on top. How are you both?
Great.
Good.
Good. Well, thank you both so much for being here. And I was thinking, and this should help frame the fact that people who are watching with questions and the two of you, like, because the thing I'm going to say next totally it's inappropriate in the sense that when my son was 5, I was telling him a story and he goes, "Mom, you're a sexist." He told me that I was, because I taught him all the words, like to be, totally aware of things, because I realized when I knew both of you were coming on, I can't go any further without commenting on how much great hair is happening on the screen. And yes, you're absolutely right. If you were men in financial services and entrepreneurs, I would not comment on your hair, but come on, like, all right. Am I right or am I right? All right. So apology aside, and now you know my own unconscious bias that we need to overcome. Serious questions now. Joni, what was it like to be one of the first and few women partners in financial consulting? Like, what did you have to do to get there, and what was that like?
Yeah, great question, Deanna. And thank you, by the way, for having us on the show. This is going to be so much fun. Wow. This is going back quite a ways in time now because, my consulting career actually started at least almost 25 years ago. So back then, there weren't a lot of female role models. And getting to that point where it became very normal to be the only woman in the room. And you just had to lean into that and know that you didn't have to be like the men. You could bring your own self into those conversations, and just learning how to navigate that and how to feel comfortable in your own skin, but also knowing that there were other women that were right behind you that needed help, needed that extra hand to get pulled up. Because let's face it, the financial services world and the consulting world were very male dominated at that point, and there weren't a lot. So, it also was important to get mentors and sponsors that were men.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you said, like, there's women coming up behind you. Where did you look then to, Well, actually, what's your background and training though, as far as getting into financial services?
Yeah. So, what my training was primarily in, I started in at the University of Kansas, where I went to study business administration. Yeah,
Kansas.
and
Actually, aren't you guys going potentially to the wait, speaking of things, I am such a jerk for women's rights. I am so sorry to all of my viewers because now I'm like, wait, isn't there like a big football game coming up and that Kansas might be in it? Wait, no, I'm just kidding. Aren't the Chiefs? Sorry, just
Chiefs,
it's the
yes,
Chiefs.
we just won. Yes, what an exciting game, right? Yes, we love the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right.
Yes. So that's where I got my start. And honestly, both Janie and I are from the same small town. So, you know, my goal when I was leaving the small town, I wanted to see the world. I wanted to go help America because at that time, the Japanese were investing so much and buying up like Rockefeller Center and Pebble Beach and all of those places. And so my thought process at that time was, I'm going to go learn their secret sauce, come back and help the United States. That's kind of where it was.
Well, that actually was a good strategy at the time, just, you know, where you do look at it, you can learn things from other cultures and other countries to bring back here. So I want to shift gears for just a second. So Joni, you were in financial services.
Yes.
You know, I look at Janie. So the whole idea of the show is we talk a lot with micro entrepreneurs. So people who are building lives, building businesses. And, you know, I look at Janie and her husband have a business, J2 Creative. Janie, when I think of you, so you're the you're the CFO for the company, correct?
Yeah. I tell my husband what to do.
Exactly. But what's interesting though about that role, and this goes back to the idea of do people tend to diminish roles when women play them? Because there's a lot of home-based businesses where the man is the owner of the company, but the woman's actually running all the finances and making sure that everything works behind the scenes. And I think sometimes, Janie, how was that for you? Because I feel like, do you feel like you were credited for that, or did that even matter?
You know, it didn't really matter because for me, I've worked full-time remote with the company in Chicago for, you know, over 20 years. And part of that process, I started J2 Creative to be a contractor. And then I ended up being pulled in full-time as a full-time employee, which was awesome. But at the same time, my husband came home and started under the J2 Creative umbrella. And
wait, so what did J2 Creative originally do? Because I have to admit, this is where I'm going to do a sidebar conversation with Janie. Like I said, my husband and I have been friends with Janie and her husband for years. And now I'm like, wait, Janie, I thought J2 Creative was Jeff, because her husband Jeff is an artist.
It is
okay,
now.
So how did you start it first then and then bring him in under it? So what was it doing before? What was it doing then before it was like Jeff and the art?
So when I started with my company in Chicago, I was there for about 10 months. And then we decided to move back home to Kansas. We had the first child coming, and I talked them into being willing to try me as a remote employee. So it was really something where I pioneered that position. And
the first remote worker 20 years ago, right?
It's like, I watched a video the other day of a sound this generation will never understand. And it was like that dial-up sound. It's like, that was like part of my everyday. It was dial up, dial in, download. So, and as part of that, I started, I incorporated, and then I just, as they brought me into a full-time position, which I was full-time contract, and then I was actually an employee. And so Jeff had then come home, and he started with the J2 Creative. So we kind of saw the long process here when I started it, and just moving forward that way. So I still write his checks. I still say, hey, are you working? But
I love that. Do you know, years ago, it's funny because my Aunt Barbara, this would have been like way back in the day. My Uncle Stan had a business. It was in furniture sales. And I know she did all the accounting, you know, and that was back years ago. when my husband Gino and I were first married, he had a very successful contracting and commercial cleaning company. And I did all his invoicing, but for whatever reason, when we'd sit down to do invoicing, he would always that would always be a good time for him to make other phone calls. So I literally started invoicing him for my time. I would just sit down. As soon as I sat down, I'm like, I'm on. Of course, they never got paid per se. But yeah, I would send him invoices for the time that I was sitting there to do the invoicing. And I share that story based on what you're saying, Janie. And I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this. Women and asking for what we are valued. So Janie, like Brianna even said, I bet that was a big deal. I bet that was a bold question when you said, all right, this is what I'd like to do. Women asking for what they're worth, being respected for what they're worth, and also just creating opportunities. So it looks like, Janie, you did that. It's just interesting because you did it at a time when it wasn't something talked about. You did it to accommodate both your family and livelihood. Joni, is that something you had to do inside organizations to create positions for yourself?
Absolutely. I think as women, a lot of times we have to reinvent ourselves. We play multiple roles. And also, one of the things I see with my clients a lot in the coaching side is knowing your worth. Just knowing your worth. And there's, the saying, ask and you shall receive. Right. And, it sounds so simple, but sometimes we don't ask for help. We're hardwired, from childhood to be self-reliant. And, because let's face it, women can do a lot. We juggle so many things. And, but being able to know when to ask for help, so key.
But the thing is sometimes when women ask for help, I always feel like it'll be looked at as a deficiency, but when men ask for help, they help. The example I'll give, it's silly because it's outside of work, but I remember playing a pickup soccer game and I was the goalie. One goal got past me and they're like, oh, switch the goalie, and of course it was because I'm a girl and couldn't be a goalie. And then a man stood in and of course he missed some goals and things got in, but they didn't think oh, the problem is the goalie's a girl and we need to switch them. Do you know what I mean? So asking for help, am I just wrong? Am I being too sensitive?
No, and it's hard. It's hard for people to ask for help. And I will say in a corporate setting, asking for help is viewed very positively by senior management because they're viewing your ability to recognize when you need additional resources, when you need additional input. And it's a great way to build, team building and things like that. With money, that is probably one of the hardest places for people to ask for help for. And there's just so many taboos around it. And that is where, you may hold back because there might be something that has happened from your childhood that is holding you back. You may not even be aware of it. I like to call those financial imprints.
I have a friend she's a licensed clinical psychologist. And so we've been talking about that a lot. She has a podcast where she helps mental health professionals build their own practices. And it's coming out more and more that however your family looked at finances as you were growing up, that can influence how you look at finances as an adult. Yeah.
100%. So, and I'm sure everybody has, if you think back to your earliest memory of money, what was your experience? There was either an experience or someone said something to you. And I'll give you an example. I'm sure Janie, you probably have one too, but, I think about when I was little, I grew up with a single mom, raised myself and my sisters. And I remember, she was worried about how we were going to get money. We needed a new family car. She couldn't afford it. And at the time, this is my early entrepreneurial self, I'm like, okay, how can I help, contribute? How can I help solve this? So went outside and, those little landscaping rocks, they're like white and they're sparkling. And they look like diamonds when you hold them up as a child, to the sunlight. So I went door to door trying to sell these little sparkly rocks. And, I probably talked to 10 neighbors about what I was trying to do. And finally, Miss Headley, who was so sweet, gave me a shiny nickel. Ran home, so proud of this nickel to be able to contribute to the family car. And instead of being rewarded or praised at that time, I was punished. I was punished because I had brought great shame on the family for letting people know our financial situation. Now, the problem with these financial imprints, they have a long shelf life. You may not even know that it's a pattern that will go on and impact you later on in life.
Sure. Janie, I see you nodding your head. Do you have something that you experience like that as well?
Well, really, not quite like that. It was more that growing up, I was the sixth child, but I came along late in life. And
wait, what did you say in your bio, that you've always been spontaneous, including being an unplanned sixth child?
Yes, I was most definitely a surprise. And I think that my mom calls it a blessing. I would say, knowing the situation that, she was, they had a Labor Day party 9 months later, here I am. But from a financial perspective, I know that life was much harder on my 5 older siblings, because money was much tighter then. By the time I came along, my parents, they were starting businesses, and as I would grow, my imprint was probably more not about, we don't have money for stuff, but if I needed money, all I had to do was ask. And so it's hard to, that's not a bad thing. I mean,
just as an adult, does it still work that way?
I remember.
Well, actually, sort of it does, though. You do have to ask for what you're worth and what you need. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
In college, when the first time my parents actually had a conversation with me about money was when I went to college. And after the first semester, my mom said, "Janie, you went through all the money for the whole year." And I said, "Mom, you didn't tell me how much was in there or what it was for." There was just no management level that I was ever really given. So it was one of those things where I kind of had to figure things out on my own.
Sure.
So that's a different type of mindset, but at the same time, it is something that really sticks with you.
So it's interesting when you talk about having to figure out things on your own. And I've got a couple of questions with Brianna, but before I do that, I'm curious, because nowadays the one who drives me the most crazy is Jim Cramer. He looks like he's running around with his underwear too tight. Like he's just constantly like jumping and screaming and shouting at people about the stock market. Like I could never learn anything about stocks from someone like that. But there's so many people who want to give advice now. How do you figure out, and maybe Joni, I'll toss that to you first. Like, are there people that you follow, or how do you really learn financial information?
Yeah, I think one of the best gifts, Deanna, that you can give yourself as an individual is understanding money. There's, there are just so many studies, especially for women, that learn about money. They are actually better investors than men. It's just proven. So actually I'm going to give a call out to my financial advisor. Her name is Carrie Carbonaro. She's an author, I think, of The Queen's Money Bag. It's a great book for anyone who's interested in learning. She's one of the top wealth investors in the US. Just awesome. I've learned a lot from her. But I'll tell you that once you learn that, actually, I read this the other day. It's more likely that, first of all, women shoulder the majority of the credit card debt in the United States. In 2020, there was like $1 trillion in credit card debt. Women carry the most of that. Now, part of that's related to the wage gap, the pay gap. So we clearly have a lot of issues to work there. But the other thing that was interesting to me is that more women are nervous about putting their money in the stock market. And so a lot of them keep it in the bank account. I'm telling you, over the last 2 years, that was probably the worst decision that we can make as women, because you're not getting the returns on your money. You're hardly getting any interest on any money that's sitting in the bank account.
And I think in families too, that often it's the man for couples, it's I'll use just the like heterosexual example with the husband and the wife. With the male husband, they're the ones managing the stock market. So even though the woman has stocks, she actually doesn't really know kind of what's happening with it.
So I encourage, if a woman is in that situation, don't turn over the steering wheel. Get engaged. Get engaged.
Okay. Actually, Brianna's sharing this book as well. Smart Women Finish Rich by David Bach is really good.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny. He learned everything from his grandma. Well, there you
Whoa.
go. So, it's interesting when you look at just coming back full circle with the relationship with money and that women carry more credit card debt. And Brianna also asked, like, what did you do to change your relationship with money?
Yeah.
One thing that I realized is this whole thing of understanding that I gotta hear what Jay said, but that your relationship starts from back when is I realized that I had started to accrue credit card debt, not because I didn't have the money to pay the bill each year,
Mm.
but we were always, which by the way, we were never on our way to the poorhouse. But if you joke with my two sisters and I, we'll always joke that we were always on the way to the poorhouse. I internalized that by, babysitting for 50 cents an hour at age 12. And, just the idea of spending a chunk of money, which is all relative, was always foreign to me. So I just wasn't paying as much each month as I should, not because it wasn't there, but because that just felt like a lot of money to spend at what time. Ridiculous. But once I learned that, I'm like, okay, stop it. Like, it's what the rich dad, poor dad, pay yourself first. Like, don't get yourself in that situation. Janie, why did you crack up? Something I said made you like have a huge smile and crack up.
Oh.
Or were you thinking about the rest of your day?
Yeah. I don't know. I've moved on.
Okay.
I was just going to say, if I have questions on finances, I ask my best friend.
Oh, well, see, now guess who Janie's best friend is? So that is Joni, which is actually how I connected with Joni. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh.
I can't believe that we're actually already at the time of the show because I feel like we just got over hello, but we're ready for our flash photo stories. Doo, doo, doo. So our flash photo stories is you have sent me some photos ahead of time. I flashed the photo on the screen and you tell me a story about the photo. So who wants to take this one? Because this is the two of you at the CMA Awards. I understand there was something pretty funny that happened here, which you look so innocent in your dresses and your little clutch purses. What was really happening here?
Well, note that we are standing on red carpet with
Yes.
CMA behind us. And Joni, why don't you tell the story?
Okay. All right. So yeah, this is one of our epic stories. I will say that Janie and I have amazing things happen when we travel together, but this all started as a charity event auction. And at the charity event auction, they were auctioning off 2 tickets for the CMA experience. And they kept saying, come run or walk the red carpet. And so at the time, this was my late ex-husband. And I just said, listen, I know you hate country music. I'm going to go for this, and I'm taking Janie. So we ended up going. We bought these dresses. We decided to have our hair and makeup done. Well, when we got there, we realized that our tickets didn't include the red carpet, but we didn't even care. We were just like so happy to be there and together and country music. It was all good. And then when we were getting our hair done, we were just about done getting ready to go back to get our dresses on. One of my colleagues walks in with her best friend who happens to be with the network news channel, and they were running late. And they said, hey, can you use our red carpet tickets? We're like,
no way.
And so they gave us the red carpet tickets, but it gets better. So then we had rented this limo. We got in the limo and it was raining, confusion. They rolled down the window and they said, well, who do you have in the car? And she said, well, Joni. And they're like, no, you got to take him to the star entrance. So Janie turns to me and she goes, what's happening here? I said, we're going to roll with this, And so,
you're like, I'm Joni. What do you mean what's happening? I'm Joni.
Of course, my dad named me for Joni Mitchell, who is my namesake. And so this is a case of mistaken identity. So we get up there and I'm like, okay, we're going to get in trouble as soon as we go up and give the name. So we get out of the car. All the fans are going wild. So Janie and I just give a little wave, And then we walk around and we give our name. And of course, it's not on the list, but she's like, can you spell it? So I spell out my name. They write it down on a piece of paper, put it on a clipboard and hand it and say, here's Jordan. She'll be your handler. So now Janie and I have a handler.
No way.
Like, well, what's the first stop? So this is the paparazzi. So this is the money shot. Since we were going to talk a little bit about money, this was the money shot for the paparazzi. We followed the cast from Nashville. It was
fantastic. That is
So
amazing.
yes.
What
And
fun.
really fun.
Actually, knowing Janie, I feel like I can see just stuff like this happening to her, but that's really amazing. And that you guys pulled it off. That's another thing though, going back, I'm going to put up the next photo, but that's another thing about, sometimes it's like, don't stop to question why, like just go with it. If something good's happening,
Mhm.
don't be like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Just be like, you know what? Let's just take this as far as it goes. Right.
Yes. The
No.
universe surprises and delights you sometimes.
Yes. It says the red carpet story. It is freaking hilarious for sure. So I can't believe we've gotten this deep in the show and we didn't mention that Joni then went on to found the Inner Rock group, Strong Women, Stronger World. So just give us a sentence. What's the Inner Rock group?
This is all about empowering and inspiring women, historically underrepresented groups and young girls to step into their leadership, because there are not enough women in leadership positions in the world. And this is my small push to have some impact to help make that change happen.
And I understand that you teach financial literacy as well, because you have to be financially literate to be a good leader. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Janie, what's going on here?
Well, I have to say, about 4 years ago, I decided to take up hockey because I was a hockey mom. And so my entire family played hockey except for me. And one of the ladies that Jeff, my husband, played with said that, oh, you know what? She could wear your daughter's gear and come play hockey on the women's league. And so I decided, hey, why not? When you are given an opportunity, you should take it, jump in, just do it and try it. I mean, if you don't like it, you can quit.
Wait, did you at least were you a good skater? Were you like any? You
I
were
could
like,
skate.
okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, I was a roller skater.
All right.
and it translates. So anyway, this last summer, my husband Jeff and I were able to play on the same team. We are in the Z as in zebra league. That would be the bottom.
Is that like
league.
it goes like A, double A, B, double B?
So we're in the Z league.
In the Z league. Okay.
I have to say, this is our championship cup when we won the best of the worst. So
I love it. That is absolutely fabulous. And I will say, I know, Janie, you're like 34 now, but in the future, the idea that you can pick up anything, anytime. So just picking up something like, I can't imagine picking up something like hockey later. Let's just say
when I've been 39 about 10 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's fantastic. And just the feelings, and what a fun way to spend time with your spouse, right? That's hilarious.
Really awesome. So, and that's, I think that's the other lesson is, if your spouse loves something, put some time into it, put some interest into it. I think it just makes the relationship stronger.
I think that's true. I've heard, like, if you have a friend who wrote a book, like read their book, like supporting people, it's supporting the things that are important to those around you, or I just think so supporting like the little successes that people have too is really important. All right. What's this? This is now the three of you. Joni, I think this is yours.
Yes, this is myself and my two girls. And this was on our epic cross-country road trip. We called it From Dollywood to Hollywood. And this was
I like that you named it.
Yeah. Oh, yes. This was it actually was an incredible healing journey. So I unfortunately, the year before, my girls had lost their dad unexpectedly. It was tragic. And so this is really our journey, kind of into the unknown. It was the new chapter. I had just left corporate America. And, this was right as I was getting ready to launch the Inner Rock group. And so this is kind of our girl boss pose. And, this is in front of the Millennium Falcon as the Star Wars part had just opened in Disneyland.
Okay.
And so this was kind of our, our what's next? What's the next frontier? And so, such a beautiful, beautiful healing trip.
And something really special with your girls and to inspire them as well. And
Yeah.
what's this one? Strong Women, Stronger World.
Yes, Strong Women, Stronger World. This is my podcast. So this
Okay.
is basically a podcast that I'm not on every week, like you are. However, there are episodes on my YouTube channel under my name, and this is all about interviewing other leaders and the lessons, their experience, their wisdom to help others learn and grow, and hopefully avoid, some of the mistakes that we all make. So that's what this is.
Fantastic. Well, I think that is all of our pictures. So now we are at the time of the show. It is time for the flash exercise. No. When we talk about building our lives, something that's very important, and what I do is I'm also a certified fitness instructor. So I've taught aerobics since when it was actually called aerobics. And so each week there's a little known genre of aerobics, though, called interpretive aerobics, where I'm going to do an exercise. I'm going to invite you to do it with me and to guess the deeper meaning. Who knew there was a deeper meaning to aerobics? So I'm going to pull both of you out for a second to show the move, or I'll just make me full screen for a second. So this is a move. I actually just learned this in the chair last week from Margaret Berger. She's at the Juniper Center. She teaches it's called trauma sensitive yoga, but she did a pose. So this is actually it's not a pose. It's a stretch position. And actually, I correct myself. That's important because in trauma-centered yoga, you would not use the word pose because women who've experienced trauma may have actually had people who did ask them to do different things. And so it's a sensitive word. So this is a stretch. I'm going to ask you to take your left hand and bring it over and put it on your you can put, if you have a chair, put it there, but otherwise just put it on your right thigh. Take your opposite hand flat, put it behind your back like that, almost like an easel. Okay. So you've got your left shoulder, left arm front, looking front. Okay. And then you're going to turn and look to the back. So you've got the first stretch and then you've got turning behind you. So I'm going to pull both of you. I'm bringing you both back on screen. All right, so let's look at it. So now I'll do it the other side. So here's my right hand, palm down on my left knee, taking my left hand, bringing it behind me. Again, it's like an easel. So my hand is flat against the small of my back. My elbow's right in the back of my chair if I have one. So first, I'm going to bring my shoulder forward and look at you. And then I'm going to do that full rotation and look behind me.
That's a good stretch. That feels
it's a really good stretch. And you can do it right in your desk. So I invite everyone at home, if you can, to join us and do it as well. Do you know why I picked that stretch for the two of you?
I am going to say that Deanna, I'm going to go with because we look behind and we see all the fun that we had together. We look ahead and we see all the potential fun that we can have together in leadership and in life.
I love it. That's a good one. Joni, you got anything to add?
Oh my gosh. I mean, how can you, I can't even compete with that. That's awesome. I mean, you know what? We all need a Janie in our life, and I am so grateful.
Right. If we had 2 more hours, we could probably actually start with, I'm going to suggest that everyone, wait, where's Janie on LinkedIn? I'm going to suggest everyone become friends with Janie, because going out with Janie is always fun. There you go. All right. Let me tell you what I was thinking of when I did it. So again, we've got, well, first of all, it's a great stretch at your desk, but so I've got one hand on the thigh behind. So first I'm here. So I'm saying like, hello, aren't I famous or aren't I fabulous? Wait. And then I go, and guess what? Eat my dust. Huh? So that was you're fabulous. Watch you go forward and eat your dust. We are out of time. The only thing I'm going to do, and I hope for all of our viewers, because we talked about making sure that we were getting into making sure people got some good thoughts about building businesses in their lives, but also finance. I'll summarize in the comments that people can find afterwards, because there were a few suggestions of good books or people to follow. And Joni and Jane, I'll invite you to drop those in the comments as well. Any last, I hate to say, I'm going to say last quick, are there any last quick one tip that either of you would give to someone who is entrepreneur or trying to get more financially, like maybe get started in the stock market or more financially literate, like any resource or tip? Joni, go. Summarize your whole life and business in one sentence.
Gosh. I would say educate yourself on finances and don't be afraid. Embrace it. It's okay. There's nothing bad that's happened to women in making more money. So go for it.
Oh, I like that. Nothing bad that's happened to women making more money. Fantastic. And then Janie, what do you got for us?
Two things. One, always start with the end in mind. So be thinking ahead when you start. And then also make sure that you just dance through life. I mean, have fun. Life is supposed to be fun. Be dancing and happy, because there's so many great things out there. And you just have to open your eyes to see them and be positive.
That's true. And sometimes things are going to be what they're going to be, whether you're sad about it or happy about it. So absolutely. Thank you both so much for being on the show. I just loved it. It was so much fun to spend time with both of you. And for everyone else, we will see you, and for you too. We'll see you next week on Intercultural Spark. So thank you both. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye.